How's up, y'all? It's cracking about to react to this video. This is top movies of 2019. Shout out to Shanell for requesting this. So yeah, we're gonna see what they say were the best movies. Honestly, I don't go to the movies that often. I do like movies, but I'm not like a huge movie stan and I need to watch like the best movie at the box office. I don't do that. But I do catch movies here and there, through streaming. And sometimes I'll go to the movies, but I'm not huge on it, honestly. But anyway, let's see what movies they have listed for 2019. Let's watch.
Here we are. December is coming to a close, and we're staring down the barrel of a new decade. But before we pop the champagne and put on a pair of those dumb glasses, let's take a look back at the past year and the films we loved in it. These are our picks for the 10 best movies of 2019. A lot of good movies this year, so we have to break it down by category. Let's start big. This year on the blockbuster front, we were most impressed by movies like John Wick, Parabellum, pushing its set pieces to their most bombastically heightened conclusions, and Ford vs. Ferrari that would have been just a better-than-average biopic if it weren't for the rip-roaring driving scenes. And don't tell anyone we said this, but we actually loved Alita Battle Angel, and we're sorry it bombed so bad we likely won't get to see another one. However, there's nothing quite so climactic as finishing off a decade with the capstone to the most expensive story ever told. So for our first pick, we gotta go with Avengers Endgame.
I keep telling everybody they should move on and grow. Some do. But not us.
There is something to be said for the importance of sticking a landing. And in a superhero comic book world where cheating death is no big deal, Endgame stands out by making death and finality matter. There is a serious amount of runtime real estate dedicated to the breadth of our heroes' experiences with grief and the confrontation for what feels like the very first time of their own limits. As the film follows their attempts to bring back half an entire universe snapped away, they create a sense of scale, national mourning, and cost that elevates Endgame beyond all the previous Marvel offerings. If you grew up in the Marvel era, Endgame asked you to say goodbye to characters you've known since you were a kid. And no matter how you feel about comic book movies and whether they are or are not capital C cinema, that matters. On the other end of the spectrum, we have our indies, telling stories that feel just as important with stakes that are just a little bit less universal. This year, we fell most in love with the raw honesty of The Souvenir, the subtle vulnerability of Gloria Bell, the ballsy empathy of Honey Boy, and for our second pick, the endless warmth of The Farewell.
Ha! Ho! 玉蝶，跟奶奶一起做。哈！ho!
Oh, I like her.
哈哈！哎呀，你严肃点行不行啊？啊，使点劲儿嘛！
Farewell is a home-cooked meal with grandma in cinematic form. Heartfelt, hilarious, based on an absolutely bonkers premise that also just so happens to be actually real, the love is palpable everywhere in Lulu Wang's breakout picture. The story follows Awkwafina's Billy as her and her family head to China for a wedding that's really just to cover to see the family matriarch once more after she's diagnosed with a cancer that the family has decided not to tell her about. A lesser story would have shoehorned in a generic romantic side plot and a lot more will they, won't they spill the beans. But The Farewell knows exactly where its heart is, somewhere amidst the marvelous chemistry between its hero and her delightful grandmother, Nai. What about animation in 2019? Well, this year brought a fourth Toy Story that we didn't think we wanted, but totally did. A lushly animated Klaus, brutal colonialism in whimsical stop-motion clothing in This Magnificent Cake, and our absolute favorite, the delightfully bizarre I Lost My Body.
I never watch animation movies.
A boy loses his hand, and I Lost My Body is the story of how he puts himself back together. Except, instead of following the boy, it follows his hand, crawling its way back to him like a five-legged flesh crab. Well, sometimes. Other times it looks like a tiny little person, and somehow you end up feeling for the strange little bugger. Him and his owner both, and for a surprising amount. Most films, in one way or another, engage with our experience of sight. Quite a few engage equally with our experience of sound. But it's a rare film that renders a sense of touch quite so cinematically as done here. evoking sense memories so powerfully specific that you can almost feel them as you watch. It's a point of view from which we've never seen a story before,
And I don't
and
wanna
it's completely impactful in the telling.
What? Maybe it's good. I don't know. It ain't sounding too hot.
2019 was yet another good year for exciting cinematic documentaries. The capitalist culture clash of American Factory, the meta cinema of Varda by Agnes, the magnificently time-traveling restoration of They Shall Not Grow Old, the powerful Love Amidst Destruction of For Sama, the ever-better ninth installation of 63 Up, but the one that really blew us back into our seats like 5 million pounds of rocket fuel had to be Apollo 11.
10, 9, ignition sequence starts.
Apollo 11 mines an enormous wealth of archival sources, including some magnificent and previously undiscovered 70mm footage to retell the story of the moon landing as if you were there. It uses no narration, no interviews, and no recreation. Even the synthesizers used in the fantastically tense score were period accurate. The story is told almost completely with recorded conversations between the astronauts and their mission controllers, with plenty of screen time set aside to just marvel at the colossal scale of it all. And in a year of visually impressive space movies that weren't quite our speed, some with truly massive CGI budgets, they still don't come near to feeling as awesome and monumental as what it was actually like when you put a man on the moon. Next up, what made us laugh this year? Well, certainly Taika Waititi's impossibly irreverent Jojo Rabbit. If there's a difficulty modifier for funny, we think the Hitler comedy is probably the highest. But we also love the warmer, friendlier Tarantino of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Knives Out is so well written it drives us nuts, and it was good to see Eddie Murphy and J-Lo back in full form in Dolomite Is My Name and Hustlers. However, it was a freshman filmmaker with some relatively unknown actors that captured our hearts and our humor this year with our favorite 2019 comedy and fifth pick, Booksmart.
Name one person whose life was so much better because they broke a couple of rules.
Picasso.
He broke art rules. Name a person who broke a real rule.
Rosa Parks.
Name another one.
Susan B. Anthony.
God damn it.
Basically, a female Superbad, complete with McLovin-esque sidekick, actually kind of a couple. Two girls that played it safe in high school learned that as they were busy studying, their classmates were partying and still managed to get into the Ivies alongside them. So they set out to get themselves into some good old-fashioned trouble before graduation. Got the money in the bag. The script is hysterical, and the two previously unknown leads make the dialogue crackle. Teen romance is handled with far more complexity than your usual sex comedy without ever sacrificing humor for its honesty. It gets the emotions right, and it's the hardest we laugh all year. Of course, on the opposite end of the emotional spectrum, we've got the tense and the scary. There was a lot to like about the Jungian self-confrontation of Us, Dread in the Sunlight of Midsommar, and Sea Shanty Insanity at the Lighthouse, but they just didn't quite impress us like Get Out, Hereditary, or The Witch. Thrillers, though, were a different story. Joker was gorgeous with yet another performance that proves Joaquin Phoenix is an acting talent unlike anyone else. Uncut Gems was maybe too good of a thriller. Seriously, one of two reasons we're not picking it is because it gnawed at our stomach lining from start to finish like a 2-hour panic attack. The other reason, of course, is that Bong Joon-ho's Parasite came out this year and just so happened to be the best thriller in a very long time.
왜 그래요?
진짜.
아버지, 안 돼요. 죽어요.
뭐야?
속았지? 속았지?
아버지도 참.
지우야, 너도 속았지? 리얼하지 않냐, 안 그래?
Parasite is truly unlike any movie we have ever seen before or since. Part comedy, part thriller, part social drama, mixing and transitioning between its tones effortlessly and often. Bong Joon-ho is in full control of his craft and soaring. And then there's the story. An hour in, you're trying to guess where the hell this could possibly be going, but you can't. It's impossible. It always seems like there's 100 different satisfying ways he could take it at every turn, but he always seems to pick none of the above and do something even more interesting than you could have imagined. In a world where people say silly things like there's really only 7 stories, and experienced viewers pride themselves on the savvy to see every twist and turn coming miles in advance, Parasite manages to make us feel like kids at the movie theater again, truly in awe and wonder at what the silver screen has in store.
Oh, I want to see that.
It wasn't just Parasite, though. 2019 saw some of its most interesting movies come from overseas and outside of Hollywood. From China, Ash is the purest white, and especially Long Day's Journey into Night were goddamn experiences, while Bacurau and Manos hit hard from South America. However, this year we had two favorite foreign films, and we love them both so dearly we couldn't choose between them. So they're getting our numbers 3 and 4 slots. They are Pedro Almodovar's Pain and Glory and Celine Sciamma's Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
Mucho. ¿Me habrías reconocido si me ves por la calle?
Tendría que haberme fijado, pero sí. Los ojos son los mismos.
Je vais toucher. Non, je vais toucher. Ça y est, c'est bon. Vous avez touché.
I'm gonna go ahead and stop right there. I'm not a fan of foreign movies unless they have an English voiceover. I don't want to be reading the whole time. When I'm busy reading to see what's being said, I'm missing facial expressions. If it's action, I'm missing shit that happens quickly, like, you know, because I'm trying to read to see what the fuck is, you know, being said. So I don't like that. But if it has an English voiceover, I'll fuck with it. They mentioned a few movies that I actually want to watch. I want to see Uncut Gems and I want to see Parasite. I love thrillers. Like, that's my shit. So definitely going to look into those. But this was a cool little list. Movies of 2019. Most of them I've never seen before. So definitely got to look into them. Y'all let me know what y'all thought, though. And I'll see y'all on the next one. Bye.